Hello, my name is Hackett-Bauer, and I'm presenting over ethics and professional norms. Just a little background, if you hear instruments, I am a band director and I do have some kids practicing, so yeah. So, here's my table of contents. These are going to be the 5 topics I'm going to talk about today. Let's talk about personal demographics. So, who am I? Again, I said my name is Hackett-Bauer. I am 27 years old. I am a band director in Oakley, Kansas. I teach 5th through 12th grade band. I have been teaching for 5 years. I am originally from Shawnee, Kansas. I did my undergrad at Pittsburgh State University in music education, my emphasis in saxophone, and I am currently getting my master's in building administration. So a little bit more about me. This is my family. So in this picture right here, this is of my husband and I. We do not have any actual children, but we have a fur child, and his name is Hank. This is a photo of my dad. Down here is a photo of my mom, my sister, and my brother-in-law. And then I included a photo of them because they just recently got married in October, so we had a huge wedding, big party and everything. And then this bottom left picture is a picture of my in-laws. So something I like to include is that not only am I a music educator, but I'm also a performer, and so I'm very passionate about instruments and performing. So I've just included a couple pictures of me playing instruments or conducting. The one in the middle is actually from my senior recital when I was in college, because like I said earlier, my major instrument is saxophone. So continuing on to the articles. So just kind of to go over the articles, the first one kind of talked about personal and professional ethics. This is separating your personal views versus what's professional. So, a lot of times personal ethics refers to morals and the code of conduct. So, how you portray yourself. Professional refers to the values and principles that have been put in place by the work setting. So, this typically is referred to as transparency, confidentiality, and fairness. The biggest difference between these two is how you are going to set your personal beliefs and ethics aside from the workplace. The second article talked about decision making, and I found 3 main points to talk about. So proactive, ethical, you want proactive ethics based on decisions for others. So, being proactive, not reactive. The second one was institutions need to have principles or ethics to uphold. So, what do you want to see within your staff? The third one is identifying external pressures and risks. So, reasons why you might make decisions based on outside effects, which ultimately we don't want that to happen. The third article was basically listing a bunch of different types of characteristics of ethics and morals and what we want to teach students. The fourth article talked about, ethical code of conduct. And, the first one, there was 4 main points I saw. The first one talked about, ethical code of conduct towards students. We want to create consistency in problem resolution. The second one is ethical conducts towards practices and principles. So, are you being fair? Are you being accountable and responsible? The third one was ethical code of conduct towards colleagues. So confidentiality. The fourth one is ethical conduct towards parents and community. You want to make sure that your parents feel that we're respecting their values and their principles and then communicating effectively about their students' needs. The next article was about toolkit for leadership. So the 2 main kind of topics that I took away from is to basically act professionally. You are on 24/7, living in your community that you work in. Kids are going to see you around, and so modeling that appropriate behavior. And then the second one is how to establish that code of ethics. How to model that. The final article was again about more in depth about principles and these ethics and morals that they need to represent. So there was 10 main ones, and just to kind of briefly go over them, they talked about, being a role model for fairness, being consistent, responsible for your actions, knowing your school rules, accountability, supervision, don't ignore those hard situations. You're going to have those hard things come up, and knowing how to handle them appropriately. So moving on to key questions. So Let's see. So there was a handful of questions, and I just kind of it was basically going over the articles again, and I'm just restating them, but a little bit more detailed. So they said, what are ethics and why are they important? So again, ethics are your morals and your values. And I was able to find a handful of characteristics, and I did go ahead and go a little bit more in details with them. So honesty, so doing what is right. Hard work, setting goals and getting those goals. Respect, so listening to others. Cooperation, working well with others. Compassion, which is showing empathy and kindness. And forgiveness, forgiving others who have wronged you. The next one was about a bunch of characteristics between personal and professional. If I understood correctly, we were supposed to take some of the charts from the resources and circle, I would say personally that I try my hardest to do both personal and professional, but I kind of circled the ones that I felt like I fell more into, and then I included a description to the side. So personal, again, is your moral code of conduct, and professional is the values that have been put in place at the organization. So personally, I try to live by both, and I try and, there's a whole list right here that I try and live by. So the next one is, what does ethical leadership look like? So, ethical leadership, you should be ethical towards your students, towards your practices and principles, so how you teach, towards your colleagues, and then again, your parents and community. How does ethics lead to student and adult success? So I believe that if you have a good moral code of conduct and you act ethically, we're taught that students, if we model what we do, students will copy us. So, if we are modeling, honesty, hard work, respect, cooperation, compassion, forgiveness, responsibility, accountability, good morals, hopefully students will emulate that and do the same as well. So what are professional norms? So professional norms, again, are the norms that are set in your workplace. Typically, there's a couple ways they can be shown. One, by just, word of mouth, picking up secondhand, maybe not talked about. But then the second one, there could be a specific set of rules designed for your workplace. So how to advocate for ethics? I just kind of by deductive reason put this together. So I believe that, again, it is setting the standard for what is right or wrong, what is acceptable and not acceptable. So some of this will be like open communication, doing right when nobody's looking, setting standards, supporting your staff, and then, finding ways to encourage students and staff. So critical reflection. There was, again, some other questions that we were supposed to infer on. So personal/professional application. So like I said, across the board, I try to make all of my decisions based ethically for students. But, I am a human, and so I am imperfect. And so, I do make those mistakes where I don't agree with staff members. And so, I'll, working on making good ethical decisions, even if I don't agree with them personally. How can I be highly successful? I don't think I'll change anything student-wise, but, for myself personally, I need to, again, be respectful of that, staff members have different beliefs than I do, and just being acceptable and compassionate and to those people. So support educational success. When we're making fair and ethical decisions based on what's best for our students, that's how we're going to be the most successful. Ethical decisions, culture, professional norms. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we talked about how having those hard talks as administrators is going to be hard. You're going to be faced with a lot of difficult decisions. And, if you have those professional norms set up and set in place, it'll be pretty easy to follow through with that. So standard correlation. So today's standard was CLO 2.1a, and I believe that after reading the articles and learning about ethics and professional norms, I have learned the materials necessary to understand how to communicate ethically and professionally with students and staff. Those topics will typically affect staff-student community relations, fairness, integrity, transparency, trust, digital citizenship, collaboration, perseverance, reflection, lifelong learning, and support of each other. Relevancy. So this assignment was definitely relevant to me because, it talked about and reviewing my morals and my ethics and, how I treat those personally versus professionally, in the workplace and, my environment to keep everyone safe around me. The next one is reflection. When I become an administrator, my goal is to try and model what good ethical behavior looks like for my students and staff. Training my staff on what is ethically correct and right will be key to having success within the school. And then teaching students how to be honest, hardworking, respectful, cooperative, compassionate, forgiveness, and ultimately being responsible for their actions. Teaching them how to be good adults. And then, overall, this assignment has taught me lots of tools for the future. Here are my references, and that is all. Thank you.